Hall of Famer Eric Dickerson.
What's up, everybody? I'm Matt Leinart, 2004 Heisman Trophy winner.
Hey, I'm Zane Gonzalez.
Hi, I'm Matt Barry from ESPN. You're getting ready to watch one of the best college football podcasts ever. It's the Harris Highlight Show.
You're watching the Harris Highlight Show.
And you're watching the Harris Highlight Show.
And you listen to the Harris Highlight Show. Enjoy it.
Na 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 na.
Coming to you live from the Chateau in beautiful Monrovia, California. This is the Harris Highlight Show. Joining me this week is our college football expert and analyst, Lyle Goldstein, our executive producer and sandwich connoisseur, Brady Klain. I'm your host for the evening.
Pretzel. We're on to pretzels.
We're on to pretzels now. Blake Harris. Josh Schaefer, our bud. He'll potentially be joining later on for the pick'ems. We'll have to wait and see. But boys, it's been a few weeks. I think 2 weeks since our last show. How we doing? What's the latest? And how we feeling about this college football season so far? I think we're officially more than halfway through it now.
Yeah, doing well. College football season's in mid-season form, going strong for the most part. You kind of know it's fall here when you forget what the sun looks like. So, I mean, that's a little bit of a downer. But you know what? Like I always say about October, best month of the sports year, and it's not close because you've got everything kicking into gear. So that kind of levels it out. So no complaints.
How are your Kraken doing, Lyle?
They're struggling, and I know people are talking about it, but like I kind of look at it like if you expect them to do what Vegas did, that's just not realistic for any expansion team. Like Vegas is such an outlier, and they struck gold with so many players. Where the reality is when you start an expansion team, like you're probably not going to be very good for a couple of years. So like I'm not freaking out about it or anything like that.
Yeah, plenty of time. Plenty of time for the Kraken.
Plenty of time. I'm rocking, man. I'm sort of on a hot streak right now. It's going to be I'm going to hit 4 college football games in 4 weeks in a row.
Impressive.
So
all different stadiums or
three different stadiums.
Okay.
What's the game this week?
I did the IU Michigan State game 2 weeks ago. I was at IU Ohio State last week. I stayed the entire time because I was shooting the game. That was a bad idea. It was cold. It was wet, and IU lost by 45. Yeah, 47. Yeah. This week's game, I'm making my first voyage up to South Bend. I'm going to Notre Dame, North Carolina. Yeah, so I got to go there this weekend.
It's a good game to go to.
Yeah, and then next weekend I'm hitting up ASU USC out in Sun Devil Stadium. So I'm making my way back to Arizona. So I'm rocking all in on college football. I missed the first few weeks of the season. Now I am all in.
Yeah, that's unbelievable. I was gonna say before I cut Lyle off, I've been to none. I was gonna go to the ASU UCLA game at the Rose Bowl, but I was like feeling pretty under the weather, didn't want to go. The fact that the previous 2 matchups at the Rose Bowl, I was in Arizona, and I ended up going to those games. Now that I'm back here in LA, I didn't go to that one, but the one I didn't go to, they won. So, and Brady, we didn't have to go to El Monte, so it's a win-win.
Yeah.
Lyle, what were you going to say?
We didn't have to go sing karaoke.
Oh, I was just going to ask Brady, are you just going as a fan for the Notre Dame game? Or are you taking pictures again? Or
I'm going as a fan for the Notre Dame game. I went to a fan. I went for a fan with the Michigan State game. I worked the Ohio State game. I'm going for a fan this week, and I'm shooting the ASU game next weekend. Funny enough, got a phone call on my way home from work today from none other than our good buddy that works in South Bend, Mr. Anthony Totri.
Oh, how about
so
that?
I might see him when I go up there.
Oh boy. Well,
maybe Austin Burnett too.
Make sure you send him all of our best. I thought you were going to say you got a phone call from another photographer that we all know and love, but no. I'm sure Camparelli's probably too busy trying to get a certain student to stop texting him. All right, guys, let's get this bad boy underway. So for the most part, we're just going to be talking the Heisman discussion, talking about some playoff teams. And instead of doing a Q&A later in the show, it's going to be kind of a Q&A throughout the entire show. So if you guys have any questions, college football related, NFL related, again, stadium recommendations from Brady, who's going all across the country, Seattle Kraken related for Lyle, or Ted Lasso questions, because now I've officially watched Ted Lasso, so I can get in on all of your guys' questions and discussion there. And like I said, if you guys have anything, you can hit us up in the super chat. That way we guarantee we'll answer your question. But again, Q&A throughout the entire show, so anything you have you want to throw our way, feel free to hit us up at any time in the show. And Andrew, Josh, I guess you didn't hear the news.
Josh is a working woman of America.
He quit.
Were you going to say something else, Brady?
I was going to ask Blake a question.
Oh, go
okay.
For it.
Before you do that,
go ahead.
I was going to say just for people listening, before you do that, especially for this week, just because there's not a whole lot of college football content, and especially since there haven't been a bunch of really good games. Yeah, feel free to flood the inbox with a bunch of questions, especially if it's non-college football related, because this will be one of those more, I'd say, laid back shows.
The weirder and wilder, the better.
Yes.
The more non-college football related it is, the higher chance it'll be answered. What was it, Brady?
I was going to ask you what you thought of the Coach Beard episode of Ted Lasso, where he has a night out on the town by himself.
So the good thing was MJ heard about that from her coworkers at Barnes and Noble. And I was like, all right, let's just give it time. And we made about 5 to 10 minutes in, and we skipped through the end because I was bored watching it.
Did you like it, Brady?
So I rewatched it last night. I've watched the entire thing. I'm rewatching it with my parents. They'd never seen it. So we're on that episode last night, and the second time you watch it, you get a lot more. Like, you start to pick up small things throughout the episode. So the first time I was like, what the hell is going on? But last night I was like, okay, I'm getting there. But it's still, it's the worst episode there is, but it's still a good episode.
That's kind of what I was going to say is I get why they had to do it, because they've highlighted every character so much up to that point, except Beard, who is supposed to be one of the main characters. But the whole idea of the episode as a whole was just so all over the place. Like, it was funny. It just, like, I guess it wasn't one of my favorite episodes, especially because the episode before they left you on such a cliffhanger, only to tune in that next Thursday night and find out, oh, well, what happens? This is a totally random episode.
So apparently, based on the research that MJ did, apparently, because the first season was 10 episodes, the second season was supposed to be 10 episodes as well, but I guess they wanted to push it to 12. So the Coach Beard episode, they added because they wanted to hit the 12. Do you guys want to take a guess what the next episode was that was added to hit that 12 number?
I'm going to guess the funeral episode.
I have no idea. Why don't you tell us?
The Christmas episode.
Oh,
that would make sense. That was a really good. This is the Ted Lasso show now. Hey, everybody, welcome to the Ted Lasso.
Well, I've been behind
show.
on the game, so now I can engage in the discussion.
So
screw Nate.
Well, last thing I want to ask you, then we'll get into college football. Is so this is how my mind works, and Blake, you might recognize this too. The opening shot of the very first episode of this season is a close-up on Nate's face. The final shot of the final episode is a close-up on Nate's face. Throughout the one season, did you notice every episode his hair changes color every time? Every episode?
Yeah.
It's slightly more gray. You also read the you read his tweet. If you haven't read Nick Muhammad's tweet explaining the season, go do it. It's incredible. All right.
So unless we get more Ted Lasso questions later in the show, there's our Ted Lasso discussion for this week. Guys, let's kick off our Heisman discussion. We were going to do our Heisman top 5 on our show 2 weeks ago, but we just ran out of time. We were talking about too many other things. And we really, for the most part, haven't talked much about the Heisman race up to this point, because I think, we said we got to wait till it's at least, I think, 1/3 of the way through the season. And then just like, and we've been busy and everything. So this is kind of our first real Heisman discussion, aside from back at the beginning of the season when we made our Heisman predictions. So a lot has changed. Our top 5s, I'm sure, look entirely different, unless some of us still want to commit to Sam Howell and Spencer Rattler in our top 3. If you want to do that, by all means, go for it. But guys, again, this doesn't have to be in any particular order. If you want to do who you think the favorite is, who the second favorite is, but again, this could be just who you think like the 5 best players are that you think are going to win the Heisman, or again, any way you want to go. So I'll kick it off to you. Your Heisman top 5. Like I said, I think more than halfway through the season at this point.
Yeah, preseason I had DJ, so that ain't happening. The man who just got benched last weekend.
Right.
So he will not be winning. He is not in my top 5. Spoiler. I think Bryce Young has to be the favorite. I know Alabama lost one game, but he's been pretty close to flawless all year. And he looks like he's up in that Tua Mac Jones category in terms of these Bama quarterbacks that have just absolutely thrived in college. I think he has to be number 1. I would say Matt Corral's not far behind. I mean, he's lit it up. We've seen the Ole Miss offense. It can just click on all cylinders for as long as 60 minutes of the entire game. So I'd say Young at 1, Corral at 2. I'd say Pickett and Stroud are somewhere 3-4. You can interchange those two. I know CJ Stroud was just okay at the start of the year. I know that first game against Minnesota, he was a little underwhelming, but since then he's been really good. Pickett has kind of surprised everybody. And then if you had to throw one non-quarterback in there, it's probably Kenneth Walker. I don't know how Michigan State is still undefeated at this point in the year. Like they were they were more than an afterthought in my mind at the start of the season. I thought they'd just be 7-5 or whatever, like they have been the last few years. But they're still undefeated, and Kenneth Walker is kind of anchoring that team. So usually you don't see all quarterbacks go to New York, especially if it's going to be 5 guys. So if there has to be one non-quarterback, it's probably Walker.
Yeah, I like it. I agree, Lyle. I don't get this whole Michigan State thing. It makes zero sense because they were awful last year, but they've just been mediocre, the last few years. Then all of a sudden now they're ranked in the top 8.
Yeah, I mean, I think the second half of the season might be a rude awakening for them because their schedule gets
Right.
tougher, but I still didn't think they'd be undefeated up to this point.
And especially, Kenneth Walker, who transferred and was really, not much of a, running back talent in the college football world until all of a sudden this year. So yeah, major surprise there, but yeah, probably best non-quarterback, I'd say, unless Brady has someone else. I think preseason Brady had a running back take that for some reason got him absolutely lit up in the comments, but he stuck by it.
Let's see my running back take. Let's read through the comments now. I see that name listed 1, 2, a few times in here in the comments already. Weird. And guess what? He's still on my list. I've got the same top 4. I've got Bryce Young, Matt Corral, CJ Stroud, and Kenny Pickett. I've seen a lot of people say, well, what about Caleb Williams? Yeah, cool. He's had a great few games. There is zero chance and zero reason why he should be considered in the Heisman for this year, unless he somehow does something incredible and breaks records, having not played in 4 or 5 games before, whatever it may be. He should not be in consideration. He's very good. Don't get me wrong. I think in future years he could be, but he should be this year. I also have Bijan Robinson in mind. I think what he's been doing in Texas is he's been, carrying Texas. We saw the play a few weeks ago where he just housed it, and everyone's like, yep, this guy's the second coming of Reggie Bush. And hopefully Bijan Robinson can have an NFL career that's slightly different than Reggie Bush, but a college career that one is similar. And I do have one other non-quarterback. I have a defensive player. And this guy's...
I think I know.
I'm going to go with Lyle.
Is it Kayvon?
No.
Nope. Jordan Davis from Georgia.
Yeah.
Nose tackle, defensive tackle. The dude has like 18 tackles on the year, only about 2 sacks. But if you look at what he's doing, the ball is never run towards him. He is that guy on the defensive line for Georgia that says, all right, let's find out where Jordan Davis is. We're going over there. His pressures on the quarterback are, I think, top 3 in the country. Everything that he's doing at the defensive line position is unreal. Like, what I've seen out of him from when I've watched this Georgia team, like, I get Aaron Donald vibes from this guy. He's incredible.
Yeah, I've seen some accounts out there. They're starting to make a little push for him, and they'll post like some highlight videos of him just needing like 3 guys to take him down, and that still doesn't work. So he won't get top 5, top 10 votes. But yeah, I mean, defensively, I think Kayvon Thibodeau is probably the best talent so far. But watching him play this year, I mean, again, just try to find some like highlight clips on Instagram or Twitter. The dude has been absolutely insane. Mine's kind of similar as well, but I don't really have like a first, second, or a third. I think the top 3 between Bryce Young, Matt Corral, Kenny Pickett, I think those are going to be the 3 that might be the top 3 when it comes to voting at the end of the year. I don't know how you rank who. I mean, what Kenny Pickett's done this year for Pittsburgh is kind of just essentially come out of nowhere. He's kind of like the Zach Wilson of last year, kind of like the Joe Burrow from 2 years ago, where he was, a prospect who might be kind of like a mid to late round guy. And all of a sudden now he might be the first quarterback off the board. His numbers are unbelievable. I don't have them up, but I think it's something like 23 touchdown passes, 3 interceptions. Had Pittsburgh not lost to Western Michigan, I don't know, week 2 or 3, whenever that was, I think they lost by a field goal. Pittsburgh would be undefeated. They'd likely be a top 10 team. They'd be making a slight playoff push. So if I had to give it to like a slight edge to anyone, it might be to Kenny Pickett. But I think between him, Matt Corral, Bryce Young, that's going to be the top 3. Again, Kenneth Walker, if Michigan State continues to win, he'll be up there. Bijan Robinson's the best running back in the country. He'll continue to be up there. CJ Stroud, the fact that he's, earned himself a spot like in the top 5 or 6 after those first few weeks. Ever since Ohio State lost to Oregon, this team has been unstoppable. I think Brady got to witness that firsthand, that this is a completely different team at the beginning of the year.
Granted, it was against Indiana, who is not what they were last year at all. But what I saw him do, his mobility inside and outside of the pocket and his ability to just stay calm, take a step forward, read the backside pressure was next level. Watching it up close, and the dude can move too. So if he's out of the pocket and he's scrambling, if you're a linebacker or a coverage corner, you gotta make a decision. You either go for the quarterback or you go for the receiver, because he'll beat you either way. And he did.
Yeah. I also really like Travion Henderson, the freshman running back for Ohio State. I think he's probably been the most surprising running back, maybe the second or third best running back in the country this year. And I agree with what Brady said. I don't think Caleb Williams should be as high in the discussion as he is, but if he's able to help Oklahoma win out the rest of the way and put up some amazing numbers, given the circumstance, maybe he'll find himself receiving some votes right there. But guys, I wanted to, the next topic in regards to the whole Heisman thing is, do you think this is the best Heisman race in recent memory? And, you could take this for what it's worth. There's been some years in recent past where you could say like Devontae Smith last year, wide receiver winning it was fantastic. Joe Burrow putting up the insane numbers, that was kind of better. But we're not having quite the performances this year from players. But I don't recall a Heisman race in recent memory, going into November being kind of this up in the air. Usually by this point, there's usually a favorite with maybe someone second who can maybe make a run. As of right now, the odds, Bryce Young is plus 150, Matt Corral is plus 350, CJ Stroud is plus 350, Kenny Pickett is 10-1 odds. It's anyone's game up to this point. So do you guys recall, like I said, the past decade or so where going into November, it was 4 guys potentially fighting for it, maybe 5? Because again, there's some guys, as well that, Bijan Robinson, Kenneth Walker, they don't have the highest odds, but they could still potentially finish second or third, maybe even first, depending on how they finish the season for their respective teams.
Yeah,
you want to
go ahead.
Go ahead. I was just going to say, I don't think this is the best Heisman race in recent memory. I think it's
maybe I should say most competitive, so far.
I would even say that, because I think most competitive was the Christian McCaffrey Heisman year, where he very well should have and could have won the Heisman. So I think this is the most up in the air Heisman. I think in years past, it's between 2 guys usually. It's saying, hey, well, it could be this guy, or it could be it could be this guy too. And even the last, call it 2 years, it's been one-sided, where everyone's saying, all right, it's going to be Devontae, all right, it's going to be Joe Burrow, could be Trent, whatever. I think this is the most up in the air Heisman race we've seen in the last 5-6 years, because there are so many, I don't want to call them differences between the players, but it's pretty even across everybody. Nobody's had that one Heisman moment, that one game that is just, oh my God, this dude is unreal. Like, yeah, we've seen some really good games, but like Matt Corral, has he had that one game where you look at him and you think that guy is going to win the Heisman? Or Bryce Young, where you think that guy's going to win the Heisman? I haven't. You guys may think differently, but I haven't. I'm
trying to remember. I mean, in terms of the last decade of Heisman races, the McCaffrey-Henry one is good. Last year, I feel like Devontae didn't get serious speculation about winning it until pretty late. I mean, maybe I'm wrong about that, but if I remember, I feel like both him and Mac Jones took a while to really, really get to the forefront of the conversation. I remember I feel like Kyle Trask last year around this time, people were talking about. I know Trevor was nominated, although I thought he was a little bit in the background. And then I guess the other good race was back when it seemed like Tua was going to far and away win the Heisman, and then Kyler caught him late in the year. That was a good race, but I guess that was only two guys. So when you talk about the most competitive and maybe the deepest Heisman race, this might be the best one in a long time, because usually you'll see one or two guys that are just way ahead of the rest of the pack. But like we're talking about, there's not really one clear-cut guy. If Bryce Young has one bad week, Matt Corral goes and throws for 5 touchdowns, and Ole Miss wins a big game, and Corral can easily jump him. If Kenneth Walker rushes for 200 yards in a game, Kenneth Walker could put his name right at the top of the list. So, yeah, I mean, there's no clear-cut front runner, and I think it's all pretty compact, and it looks like it's going to stay that way, at least for the next couple weeks.
Yeah, the crazy thing is, again, looking at the odds right now, Brady, Bijan Robinson, he's not a running back with the last name Robinson that actually has the best odds. He's currently listed at 80-1, so it's a very shocking number. But Brian Robinson Jr., Alabama running back, he currently has the best running back odds to win a Heisman. He's actually tied with Kenneth Walker right now. So, again, all those quarterbacks we mentioned, and then you talk about Brian Robinson, Kenneth Walker, Bijan Robinson, Travion Henderson, who, like I said, I'd give the edge to Travion Henderson over CJ Stroud, just because I think this Ohio State team wouldn't be as good as they are without, Travion Henderson. And then again, Caleb Williams, there's a chance he might come in, make a potential push, something like that. Desmond Ridder, a name that we haven't even mentioned. If he leads Cincinnati,
I was just going to bring him up.
If he leads Cincinnati to an undefeated season, I mean, he definitely doesn't have the numbers quite like some of these other quarterbacks, but you look at his resume, Desmond Ridder is easily a guy, and then a guy that, is not going to get any votes or anything like that. But I didn't realize that. I'm glad Josh isn't here, because Josh would spend 10 minutes on this next topic. But the fact that Drake London, I saw the stat that he has like the most catches by a Power 5 wide receiver through like 7 weeks. Like, I knew that he's been pretty good this year, but I didn't realize like that he's been that good so far.
Yeah. So in the game this weekend, at least leading up to it, Brian Kelly talked about he's a guy that, I mean, you have to just circle on every play during film study and prepare for beyond belief, and you have to have a plan for him. I know they said they talked the same about George Karlaftis, who's a defensive lineman for Purdue, who's a really good player. They said they had to do the same thing with him earlier in the year, is basically circle him on every play. And they were talking about the same thing with Drake London, because they said if you don't have a plan, he's going to beat you. And oh my God, I mean, I know Notre Dame won that game, but he caught like 17 passes in that game. And I know Kyle Hamilton went out early, and that would have been a fun matchup to watch for 60 minutes. But yeah, that guy torched Notre Dame. I know USC hasn't had a good year, but yeah, Drake London's a guy that I feel like if USC was better, he'd have some attention.
Right. So, guys, before we move on to some Q&As, before we then talk about some playoff discussion, I'm giving you guys hypothetical money, $1,000. You got to go to Vegas tonight. Put it down on a player to win the Heisman. Who are you putting the money down on?
Right now, I'll say Bryce Young. Yeah, I think that makes the most sense, especially with what we expect Bama to do.
I agree, but I'm going to take a risk, and I'll say Matt Corral. Bigger payout.
Well, I want a much bigger payout, so I'll go with Kenny Pickett, so I can win more money than all of you guys. But again, that's what makes this one so great. Again, there's multiple players that can potentially win. But let's answer some of you guys' questions right now. Again, if you guys have any questions, college football related, NFL related, Ted Lasso related, anything you guys want to hear our thoughts on, let us know in the comments down below.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, while Blake or Brady pulls up some questions, I was just going to add to kind of wrap up this Heisman discussion. What you guys were talking about with Caleb Williams, I mean, maybe things will change if he plays that well over the final stretch. But when you're just simply talking about getting invited to New York, like Desmond Ridder feels like a guy that, even though he's not going to win, he should be there. Like yeah. I don't know if I'd love to see Caleb Williams go over Ridder. If Cincinnati's undefeated and Williams has played like 6 games, like Ridder probably won't win, but that's a guy that at least deserves it, I think.
I agree. And it's weird. Every year they have like a different number of finalists. Like some years it's 3, some years it's 4, some years it's 5. So hopefully they have 5. They'll get him there. Lyle, this first question's for you. This comes from Justin Kerr. Thoughts on Kyle Hamilton being out and in general as a draft prospect?
Well, the good news is it's not supposed to be long-term. I mean, maybe it kind of sucks for Brady because he's going to be out this weekend against North Carolina, so he won't get to see him. But, yeah, in terms of a draft prospect, I mean, we're talking about possibly the highest drafted safety in a long time. I mean, I think the last safety to go in the top 10 was Jamal Adams back in 2017. And before that, I think you'd have to go all the way back to Eric Berry, if I'm not mistaken. And that was like '08 or '09. And so, I mean, you look at him as a prospect and he's pretty unique just because the safety position in general is starting to be less valued than a lot of other positions. But when you look at what he can do, I mean, Jamal Adams, who went sixth, is considered a box safety because of how good he is rushing the passer and racking up sacks, where somebody like Honey Badger is considered a coverage safety because he's really good in coverage and he can guard wide receivers and cover wide receivers. Like Kyle Hamilton can do both at a very, very high level. So when you combine his size, his instinct, his IQ with just his talent, both in the box and in coverage in general, that adds up to something pretty special. And I wouldn't be shocked to see him go within the first 5 to 7 picks.
Yeah, I mean, just the talent on the defensive side in this year's NFL draft is like there's a chance Kyle Hamilton is the third defensive player taken in the draft, which is nuts to think about, where most drafts he would have been the first. Brady, this one came a while back, but it's for you. It's from our man Connor. Brady, despite how bad we are, you need to go to Lane Stadium. Just show up for the 15 minutes before enter Sadman and leave 3 plays into the game because Virginia Tech will have effed it up by then. So, you're trying to hit up a college football stadium every week, it sounds like. So, 3 weeks from now, schedule a date for Lane Stadium.
I'll see what I can do there, Connor. But, in order of, atmospheres and events and places I want to go to, that's definitely top 5 on my list. I do think, though, I don't know if they're going to do it again this year, but priorities, I got to hit a whiteout at Beaver Stadium first, and then I'll go Enter Sandman. Maybe I'll do it vice versa because, Enter Sandman gets you going, but then, I mean, even you can agree there's nothing better than a whiteout, right, Connor? I mean, you've got one of the best intros in all of college football and all of sports, but you can't beat a whiteout at Penn State. I'll try to make it.
This could be great because you could go see a morning or day. Well, I guess it's morning out here, but it's day games for them. So you could, like you said, be there for about 30, 45 minutes and then be like, all right, I'm out. And then go hit up another game somewhere within a couple hours away. This one comes from a man, Andrew. Guys, would you have your college football team have one bad season so that one of your professional sports teams could win a championship? Well, Brady's been having that trade-off for the last 50 years, and it's only really paid off for him. What? Once, Brady?
Yeah. Once.
So
we've made it there. But once.
But that's not the trade-off. So you're getting the raw end of this deal, apparently.
Happens.
What about you, Lyle? We're talking, let's see here.
Notre Dame team makes the playoffs.
Notre Dame can't make a bowl game for the next 10 years. They're a laughingstock of college football.
It says one. It says one bad season.
I know, but I feel like one bad season, like that's an easy trade-off. Like that's I feel like anyone with, Lyle, I feel like you would trade a 3-9 Notre Dame season for the Seahawks or Mariners to win a championship. Unless I'm wrong, maybe you just want Notre Dame to win every year.
Yeah, I'd trade it. And honestly, if it was going to be like 5 seasons of look, I love Notre Dame football. Like I've been a fan for a long time, but if they had to have like 4 or 5 straight losing seasons for the Mariners to win a World Series, yeah, like I'd trade it. Because that's 4 or 5 years. Try 20. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I would do that as well. So, all right, guys. Again, if you have any more college football related questions, keep those coming in the live chat. We're going to be answering those after we get done with our next segment. We kind of did something similar to this a couple weeks ago, but again, with this being more than halfway through the college football season, we're entering November. We have a better understanding. We have a better idea of which teams have a legitimate chance of reaching the college football playoff. I think a couple weeks ago, it was maybe have a chance to win, or maybe it was just to reach the playoffs as well. So, guys, I'm going to be listing teams that are in the top 10 or 12 right now in the AP poll, and I just want you guys to tell me whether or not you think they're a contender or a pretender in regards to making the college football playoffs. So this isn't necessarily them winning a game in the playoff, winning the national championship, just being one of the 4 final teams when it's all said and done. All right, guys, let's kick things underway, and this will be quick for the first view. Georgia, are they a contender or pretender?
They are a contender.
Contender.
A pretty good contender as well, I must say. Cincinnati.
Contender.
Yeah, contender. If we're simply talking about who could be the top 4 teams, contender.
All right, guys. Alabama.
I'm gonna go with pretender. No, contender.
Yeah, I like it as well. Now things are going to get interesting though if Alabama were to lose to Georgia in the SEC title game, or if it's the other way around where Georgia loses to Alabama, because you got to think both those SEC teams are going to make it in. You're likely going to have the winner of the Big Ten in. Then all of a sudden you're looking at potential undefeated Oklahoma Big 12 champion, an undefeated Cincinnati team. So things might get a little juicy. And again, we'll get to hypotheticals a few weeks down the line when we're getting closer. All right, guys. At 8-0 on the season, currently ranked number 4 in the country, coming off a thrilling, hard-fought, come-from-behind victory on the road at Kansas, we have the Oklahoma Sooners.
Pretender.
Yeah, let me do my best New York Mets impersonation here. Yeah, pretender.
So now what happens, guys, if let's just say hypothetically Oklahoma wins out, they continue to just barely get by. They barely get by in the Big 12 title game with whoever they play. Do you think, again, if they're looking at an undefeated Cincinnati team, they're looking at, an either one loss Big 10 winning Ohio State team, maybe somehow all of a sudden Michigan comes out of nowhere, they're undefeated, you got Cincinnati. Is Oklahoma a lock to get in, or would they look and say, all these close games, we're gonna have Oklahoma on the outside looking in?
If we're simply talking about what we think the committee is going to do, the sad truth is they will almost definitely put Oklahoma in over Cincinnati, which isn't really fair, but I feel like that's the direction we're headed. Only for Oklahoma to, of course, then go lose by 50 points to Alabama when they get to the playoff. But in terms of the top 4 teams, yeah, they'd probably put Oklahoma in.
I'm going to say they don't. I'm going to say I'd say Cincinnati would get a nod over them. Just in the fact that you saw how this experiment has worked out when you put a team like this, like Oklahoma, that's had quarterback problems that we saw the last few years. We're seeing again this year, the quarterback inconsistency is what I'll call it. Not a quarterback problem of 2 great quarterbacks, but the quarterback inconsistency. You can't win a championship rotating out quarterbacks. You need to have one guy who's your guy, and I don't think Oklahoma has that. So I think the committee would put in a Cincinnati team over Oklahoma, because in a year that viewership is up in college football, you're telling me everybody wouldn't be watching the Cincinnati game in the playoffs? Every single person would be watching that game. To watch Oklahoma again, they'd be like, whatever, it's Oklahoma. To see a team like Cincinnati there, you're like, oh, hell yeah, I'm watching this game.
All right, guys. Up next, we got at number 5, Ohio State.
Contender.
Yeah, they're contenders. We always talk about it's better to lose early than late, and it's pretty clear after that early loss to Oregon, they've turned their season around pretty nicely.
Yeah, I mean, this is a completely different team after that Oregon game. Looks like the Ohio State we're all expected. All right, guys, at number 6, I still can't believe this, but the Michigan Wolverines, they're undefeated. They're ranked number 6 in the country. Again, came out of nowhere. Are they a contender or a pretender?
I think they have to be a pretender. I know we talked about this with Iowa, but I kind of feel like this with all the Big Ten teams outside of Ohio State, in the sense of if they have to play Alabama or Georgia, I'm not really expecting many teams to beat them. But are these Big Ten teams even going to move the ball past the 50-yard line? I honestly cannot say with confidence yes. So I'm gonna say pretender.
This is for who?
Michigan.
Michigan. I'm gonna say pretender. I don't know. I mean, how do you go from your coach is going to get fired to, hey, we're going to be in the playoffs in half a season? So I'm going to say pretender.
Yeah, I mean, the thing, looking at Michigan's schedule, this week they're on the road at Michigan State. Then they're on the road at Penn State in a couple of weeks. And then, of course, they wrap up the season against Ohio State. So you would assume they got some losses coming. If they make it through that gauntlet, then obviously I think they're going to be legit. But as of right now, I do agree. I think Michigan is a pretender. The Oregon Ducks at number 7.
I'll say contender, because if they win the Pac-12, they can get in. I mean, I don't love that they lost to Stanford. I know that's kind of just how Pac-12 football goes these days, where anybody beats anybody. But if Oregon rattles off a few good wins, if they convincingly win the Pac-12 championship, Yeah, I'd say they're a contender.
I'll say contender just to give the Pac-12 a shot.
Yeah, that Stanford loss that can end up hurting them. But I mean, for the most part, again, if you and that weird game against Cal a couple weeks ago where they just looked awful. Oregon, they've looked good. They do have that head-to-head win over Ohio State, which could help them. But I'll go with contender just because they're on the outside looking in. But I do think they're going to need some help in order to keep advancing. Here's another one that probably makes even less sense than the Michigan one. The Michigan State Spartans, ranked number 8. Now, something's going to have to give this weekend when they play against Michigan. One of these teams is still going to be undefeated, but the Michigan State Spartans, are they a contender to be a college football playoff team? Who would be making their second college football playoff appearance?
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, they'd still be attempting to score their first touchdown. I'm pretty sure they put up, 3 points against Alabama when they were in it?
Something like that.
Yeah, I'm going to say they're a pretender. I mean, again, I don't think anybody in the Big Ten outside of Ohio State is great, but their schedule gets much harder in the second half of the year between having to play Michigan, Penn State, Purdue, and then Ohio State. Look, if they somehow beat Ohio State, I'll change my mind, but I don't think they're going to, and I think they're going to lose a couple in the second half.
Yeah, well, Brady's probably making his PB&J. I agree. I mean, they have to prove it to us, prove us wrong, win a couple of these tough matchups. If they beat Michigan this week, then I'll buy into it maybe a little more. But until then, I'm going pretender. We'll stay in the Big Ten. Iowa, not having any sort of offense, came back to bite them. They lost because we haven't done a show in 2 weeks. They did lose. Now they're number 9 now in the country. Well, we got Brady back. Brady
not making a PB&J. I was peeing. You're welcome.
Great.
Who was the last one? Michigan State, pretender.
Yeah. Iowa, number 9.
Pretender. Same with all these Big Ten teams not named Ohio State. I just don't think they have the offense to really compete.
Defense wins championships, but it needs some offense to win one. So I'm going to say they're a pretender.
Yeah, I'm going to go with pretender as well. But the good thing is they do have a pretty winnable schedule the rest of the way. They're not playing any more ranked teams, and it looks like their biggest threat in the West is Minnesota, and I don't think Minnesota's going to make any push. So they have a chance to likely play in the Big Ten title game if they can take down Ohio State or something like that. We've seen their defense, shut teams down. It's just their offense can't do anything unless they're getting set up at their own, or on the opposing 15, 20-yard line, because this Iowa offense is not driving 75 yards to score a touchdown. They might drive 15 to 20 yards and then punt because they've literally said, I think the head coach has said, our punter is literally so good, we don't mind punting. So we'll have to wait and see there. All right, guys, a few more teams left. Ole Miss, they're ranked number 10 in the country. Are they a contender or a pretender?
As we currently speak right now, I'd say contender because, again, they have a shot to win the SEC. They have a high-flying offense, a Heisman contending quarterback. So if they continue to win games, they're a contender.
I think they're a contender. Get your popcorn ready and see what they can do for the rest of the year.
Yeah, I mean, if they went out and Alabama were to lose to Auburn, Alabama loses another game, Ole Miss, they're going to find themselves in the SEC title game. So I am going to go pretender just because they do need a lot to go their way. But who knows? When you can score as many points as you need, anything's possible. So we'll have to see with the Ole Miss Rebels. Like Brady said, get your popcorn ready. A few more teams left, guys. This one will be interesting from Lyle's take. Notre Dame.
Did you say the Boston Rebels?
I don't think so.
No, okay. You don't get the joke. Never mind. Go on.
Oh. What's the joke?
It's from the great Disney movie, The Game Plan with The Rock and Madison Pass.
I haven't seen that movie in a while, but that's a fantastic movie.
Great movie. Yeah. Go on. Sorry.
No, I'll have to jot that down so I can watch that soon. At number 11, probably the worst 6-1 team in the country, Notre Dame. What do you think, Lyle?
Yeah, they're pretenders. I mean, you can't rotate 3 quarterbacks in and out every game and expect to have any type of stability on offense. And honestly, they struggled on defense early in the year too. It's been a little better as of late, but I think there's just too many holes on this team. I think this is kind of a rebuilding year for them. So yeah, I think they're pretenders.
Nothing against Michael Mayer, but if your team revolves around the tight end, you're not going to have great success. I'm calling up a pretender, but Michael Mayer's the real deal. I do get to watch him though.
He's really good. So
Yeah, he's so good.
He'd be the best tight end in this upcoming NFL draft class if he was eligible. But
question, I'll ask you guys this. And it's tough. They're different. Never mind. I was going to ask you head to head Pitts or Mayer, but they're different style tight ends.
Yeah,
I feel like I'd take Pitts just because he is so dynamic when it comes to catching the ball. Yeah, like Mayer does probably more blocking than Pitts does. But when you talk about just a threat downfield, like we said all of last year, he's basically a wide receiver.
Yeah, I agree.
I would compare Pitts to like Travis Kelce, and then you get Mayer to Gronk, just their play style, right?
They do call him Baby Gronk, so yeah.
Perfect right there. All right, guys, we're going to skip over the number 12 team because Kentucky, that they're irrelevant. Number 13, guys, one of the lone remaining undefeated teams left at number 13 in the country, the Wake Forest Demon Deacs. Are they a contender or a pretender for the playoff?
Things have to go really, really, really wrong.
Yeah.
For them to be a contender.
I think they're a pretender, and I'm sure longtime listener Captain Rob won't love to hear us say that, but the ACC is just so bad this year that I don't know who Wake Forest is going to beat to really boost their strength of schedule, along with, again, like Brady said, needing a lot of help from above them and needing a lot of teams to lose in the next few weeks. So, yeah, I think it's going to be tough for them.
Can we just talk about probably Vegas's worst bet selection of the year so far? I think the Wake Forest Army over under was 49. The final score was 70-56. So not only did Wake Forest hit the over on their own, Army hit the over. Army scored 56 points and lost.
Yeah, they somehow threw 3 touchdown passes. That has to be some kind of record for them.
Yeah, looking at Wake Forest's schedule though, at North Carolina, against NC State, at Clemson, at Boston College. Hey, if they make it out of that alive somehow, watch out for our Demon Deacs making a run at making it to the college football playoff. Andrew says Wake Forest will lose to Clemson later this year. Mark my words. Yeah, I mean it'll probably be Clemson 7-3 because Clemson sure as hell ain't scoring. All right, guys, that wraps up contender or pretender. Again, if you guys have any questions, hit those up in the live chat. Brady,
really quickly, how many points did Wake Forest score?
70.
70? Okay, never mind then.
Yeah,
I was looking at their basketball team from last year and how many times they scored over 70, which is 5 or 6 times.
Yeah, it's unreal.
While we're looking for some more questions to talk about in here for the Q&A, there was one a while back. It was from Jack Snyder at 510. He was talking about the Bengals. I don't know if we want to. I don't know if Blake wants to pull up the actual.
I'll go back.
From that.
I'll go back
but
and I'll find it.
His question says Bengals Super Bowl contenders with a bunch of question marks. Yeah, I'm from Cincinnati, so this is a great year of sports for us. I have a take on this about Jamar Chase, and this is one of my little conspiracy theories. I feel like this guy may or may not like to spend some time at Vegas sports books. And my reason is, what on earth was going on with him in the preseason, in the sense of he was dropping all these passes. He had those comments about the football where it's it's hard to catch and different than a college ball. So it's kind of been a weird transition where then all of a sudden you had all these people in the media pumping the brakes on Jamar Chase and talking about is there cause for concern? And I would guess when all that was going down, his rookie of the year odds could not have been bolstered as a result of that. If anything, they must have taken at least a slight dip. And now this man is almost definitely going to win offensive rookie of the year, barring an injury. So my little conspiracy theory is maybe he placed a bet on himself to win rookie of the year and tried to boost down the odds as much as he could in the preseason by purposely dropping a few passes.
Well, I will say this, because of his little stunt that he pulled, I didn't draft him anywhere in fantasy football because I'm thinking, oh God, this guy hasn't played in a year. Now he's straight up is saying I cannot see the ball. And now he's literally like gonna shatter everything Justin Jefferson broke last year.
I love that when they were at LSU together, Jamar Chase was better than Justin Jefferson. And now people are shocked that Jamar Chase was better than Justin Jefferson. Like
we said,
look from 2 years ago.
We said that all of last year. Justin Jefferson was lighting the world on fire, and he was easily the best rookie receiver. And we kept talking about, I mean, this is what made that LSU team so ridiculous. Not only did Burrow have arguably the greatest season for a quarterback ever, but you're watching what Justin Jefferson's doing in his rookie year. And we kept saying he's not the best receiver from that team. And now everybody's watching Jamar Chase just absolutely thrive and go off. And it's not that surprising to us, and maybe it's surprising to others. I will say we, along with a lot of people on draft Twitter, probably have to eat a little bit of crow because, I mean, we all said, what on earth are the Bengals doing taking him over Penei Sewell? Because we're like, Joe Burrow's going to get murdered back there. But it seems like it's kind of working out. So we might have to admit we were wrong on that one.
Yeah, that one I was going to say. I mean, Penei Sewell could very well still be like a huge, like a 10-time Pro Bowler, potentially Hall of Fame guy. But Jamar Chase is looking like, I mean, I think Jamar Chase is currently a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL, and he's played for 2 months. I mean, this dude is only going to get better and better. And yeah, we might have been a tad wrong on that one because I think Joe Burrow is very happy.
I will say this. You mentioned Penei Sewell. Put the guy in the Hall of Fame already. Did you see what he was doing with Aaron Donald this last week? Going shoving and pushing. He's not backing down. I would not want to mess with either of those guys, but like Penei Sewell holding his ground against Aaron Donald, like I got major respect for him. So
now, Lyle, what conspiracy theory do you believe in more? Jamar Chase hitting up the sports books, or the great Mike Rozemba talking about that 1984 NBA draft in which David Stern bent the envelope?
Ooh, I'm going to have to go with the ping pong balls from the NBA draft. Honestly, one of the greatest setups maybe ever executed in sports history.
All right, guys. Now to answer the question Jack Snyder had, do the Bengals have a legitimate chance of winning this Super Bowl? Because I believe they currently have the best record in the AFC, or maybe the second best record.
Yeah, and they've got some sneaky good players on defense too. Like they got Trey Hendrickson, and Jesse Bates has been pretty good. Do I think they end up beating Buffalo in the end? I don't know. I think they're contenders. I don't know if they for sure get there. So, yeah, I think there's no secret at this point that they are a good team, and Joe Burrow's the real deal.
Can you right now tell me who the top 3 teams in the AFC are? Either of you.
Well, it's probably the Bills, the Bengals, and are the Titans one of the 3?
You got 2 of the 3.
Okay.
Well,
not the Bills.
Bills and Bills and Bengals are right, I think.
I know he said not the Bills.
Oh, not the Bills. So what?
Oh, I know. The Ravens.
Bengals, Ravens, Chargers?
No. Bengals, Raiders, Titans.
What the hell?
Because of win percentage. Baltimore is tied with Tennessee. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, Oakland always does this. They start hot and then they finish the year like 8-8, or I guess this year would be like 9-8.
So sounds good. I do want to throw something because before we had this Bengals Super Bowl contender question up there, we did this last season. We are officially bringing it back. If you go to our Twitter, I'll put it right here at the HH_show_. We're going to tweet out Friday night, have those notifications on so you guys can see when we tweet it out. We're going to be asking for your score prediction for the Ole Miss Auburn game. You get one shot at it, one chance. You pick the winner, you pick the score. If you correctly get the winner and the score right, you'll be winning a lot of money. I'm talking, I think, 5 or 6 figures. So we got the big Brinks truck coming in. Maybe not that much, but you guys will be getting money. We'll have the amount Friday nights. That way you guys can figure it out then. But follow us on Twitter.
Are you real quick? Are you in, Lyle? Are you in for it?
I feel like I'm being put on the spot here, so I guess so.
Yeah.
Well, you don't have to match our donation if you don't feel it, but throw in $1. But again, that number will be there on Friday. So again, follow us on Twitter. We'll drop the tweet, your score prediction for the Ole Miss Auburn game. If you get it right, we'll be sending you money via one of those cool looking pigeons that will show up at your window with an envelope. It's pretty cool. I don't know how Brady finessed that, but we got one.
You can also you'll come on the show and talk about your prediction. We'll throw that in there.
Yeah,
too.
we'll get you on the show as well.
You'll be my guest. You'll be my guest on the show.
Guys, this is one. We weren't asked this in the comments, but this was something I kind of wanted to bring up because I don't know if we ever necessarily talked about it during the off season or anything like that. But we saw it this week. I don't know if you guys saw it, but we had a 9 overtime game this weekend. That was an absolute miserable thing to watch. So I just want to get your guys' thoughts because, again, I don't think we ever discussed this. Thoughts on the new college football overtime rule, because apparently they got to do this for player safety. And obviously, games can go long because this was the longest game in college football history. So what are your guys' thoughts on the brand new college football overtime rule now that we got a golden opportunity to see how it looks when things don't go right?
I'll be very quick on it. I'll go first because I've got one thing that I actually thought of this when I saw it. Love the rule. Love going for 2 after, what is it, the second or third? What I don't like.
It's after the second overtime.
After the second. All right, that's fine. What I don't like is switching sides of the field every time. So you run one play, you run one play, you go 99 yards. You run one play, you run one play, you go 99 yards. Keep them on the side of the field. Let them just go there and be done. That's my only thought. I like the rule, but stay on the side of the field or switch every 3 if it gets to it.
I get trying to shorten the game, but after 2 overtimes, that feels a little bit quick on the trigger. I would say more like after 4 overtimes, you have to start going for 2. After 2 overtimes, I mean, I think games in the 3rd or 4th overtime are fine, and it's got everybody watching. Maybe you don't want it to go to 7 overtimes, but I think after 3 or 4 overtimes, fine, change the rule. But otherwise, I think you can just play it through.
Yeah, that's the annoying part. I mean, college football overtime is the best overtime out of any professional sport whatsoever. And I just, it's really, I think, because of the LSU A&M game from a few years ago, which is why they changed it. I don't think it needed to be changed. Like Lyle said, maybe tinker with it a little, maybe again after 4 overtimes, because after the first overtime, it pretty much is already done because in the second overtime, if you get a touchdown, you have to go for 2. And then starting in the 3rd overtime, it's only 2-point conversion. So maybe after 3 overtime, so starting in the 4th overtime, if you get a touchdown, you have to go for 2. And then maybe like the 5th overtime or 6th overtime, if you get to that point, then you start doing the 2-point conversion. But starting then the 3rd overtime, I just think it's silly. I don't think that a game, what if we have like a playoff game or something like that? I don't think a playoff game should come down to, if you get to a 3rd overtime, a 2-point conversion, something like that. So I don't like it. I thought it was nuts, but hey, 9 overtimes. That's what we all want. Andrew wants to know, when JT Daniels is healthy, whenever that's going to be, should Georgia start him over Stetson Bennett?
Yes. JT Daniels is the better quarterback. I mean, there's a reason he was starting at the beginning of the year. I've never thought Stetson Bennett was all that otherworldly impressive. Like what he's done so far this year to keep Georgia undefeated, he's a fine college quarterback, but he can't do all the things JT Daniels can do.
I agree. I think healthy and able to play the level that he was before his injury, I think he should come start. Stetson's played really well, don't get me wrong. But if you're Kirby Smart, you look at it and say, well, Stetson's got us here. Their defense got him there, but Stetson's got us here. Do we stick with it until we absolutely need to? That's a tough thing to do. It's when you're the number 1 team in the country.
Well, he did that once and it burned him, so hopefully he doesn't do that again.
Yeah. All right, guys.
And that's why I've never liked Chinese food in my life.
I agree. Guys, the power of being the host is fantastic because just like that, with the snap of my finger, boom, we can add a guest. And there is our man, Josh Schaefer. Josh, you hopped on a perfect time because we just wrapped up the pick'ems, so you can give your farewell for this week's episode.
Guys, thanks so much for joining us this week. I'm glad that I could be the host for the final few minutes, and we'll see you next week on the Harris Highlights / Schaefer Highlights show. Good night.
The
Make
Ted
sure you follow us
Lasso
on Twitter.
spam show.
What did you say?
The Ted Lasso Highlights show.
Oh, did we talk about that today when I was here in spirit?
We did.
We did. Now that I've finally watched it all the way through, because I told him I was watching our Pick'ems 2 weeks ago, and there were many Ted Lasso references that I didn't understand. That now I do, because in about a week and a half we binge watched 2 seasons.
Good for you guys. Good for you.
But I'm upset now because there's no
Now you
more.
gotta wait.
Yeah, now we gotta
But
wait.
Now you
guess
gotta wait.
what?
Predictions for next season, Blake. Go ahead. I'd like to
You
hear it.
know, that's a good question. Predictions. I think that they are going to win whatever championship it is that they are going to do. They are going
Premier
to,
League. Okay.
yes, the Premier League. They are going to beat Nate's team and Rupert. And Rupert is going to be upset. Nate is going to have some sort of breakdown, get fired, be embarrassed, try to come back to Ted. Ted's going to be a nice guy and say, "Oh, no problem, Nate." And Coach Beard is probably going to punch him in the face.
So, spoiler alert for everyone that hasn't seen it yet. So you get 13 milliseconds to pause. Cool. That's it. So Nate is now the coach at West Ham. Irrelevant. West Ham is irrelevant. So
Did you see
nobody
Nick
cares
Mohammed's
about
tweet
you,
today?
Nate. No, I didn't. But sorry, Nate. Nobody cares. Rupert. My prediction is, get this: Rupert dies. So Rupert's gonna die, and now the new villain is Nate. I don't know if Nate's gonna die though. So I think next season gets incredibly dark, and then it turns into Squid Game.
Did you watch that too?
No, I
watched
did
that.
not.
Oh,
I've not.
It's a good
It's pretty-
time.
it's pretty good.
It's the most watched show on Netflix ever, apparently, and Brady and I did not contribute to that at all, apparently. So
0.
Yeah, it's somehow
Too
generated.
busy watching Ted Lasso.
LeBron did, and the creator of Squid Game wasn't too happy about his answer about the ending.
Gosh. All right, guys. Before we get to short rounds question, before our pick'ems, apparently, so Connor comes in with a super chat to help us out here. So I forgot that they made a change prior to this. I, for some reason, thought they just made the change this offseason. So it used to be starting in the 5th overtime, the 2-point PAT started. North Carolina, Virginia Tech in 2019 went into 6 overtimes, and the first game to be decided by the 2-point PAT. So now that he's saying that, I do remember that. That's how it should have. That's how it should have been. Like that's fine. If you get to 5 overtimes, then you do that. I just in the 3rd overtime, Josh, we were talking about that right before you hopped on. How we think that the new thing is stupid because, as we saw, hell, that Penn State Illinois game, that thing could have gone like 15 overtimes.
I forgot that was a thing. So when we turned the game on and it was in like the 3rd, or it was, so we had watched the end of regulation, and then I guess I had just it never really registered to me what the score was when we turned on regulation. I guess I just saw that it was tied, right? And then we turn it on in like the 2nd or 3rd overtime. And we're at the office because we played on Saturday. So we're getting ready for our game. And we turn the game back on in the 3rd overtime and the score has stayed the same. I'm like, my God, is everyone just absolutely horrible in overtime that we are now going on to like the 5th or 6th overtime and there's been no score change? And then I remembered, oh yeah, this is that dumb rule now. So hate that rule, but that's my 2 cents here at the end of the show.
Yeah, no, we were watching the Ted Lasso episode, and we were about to start, and I saw that the game, because I was watching that game, and I saw they were about to go into overtime. I'm like, can we just wait until the game ends? And she's like, okay. And they go through the first overtime, and it ends, and I'm like, all right, this might take a while. Let's just watch the episode. Well, the Ted Lasso episode ends, and I'm like, hey, remember that game that I wanted to watch that we ended up just deciding to watch Ted Lasso? And she's like, yeah. I'm like, well, they're currently in the 8th overtime right now. And so instead of watching the rest of that overtime, we got to watch Ted Lasso instead. We're going to wrap this up with a question from Short Round. What is a situation you experienced that might have convinced you that ghosts are real? Interesting there.
I've got one right off the bat, and I think this might even be a quick story that I've told on this show already.
Quick. Okay.
Hanging out with our friend Matt at his house in high school. He's sitting on the couch, and there's a giant bookshelf next to the couch, and it's got all these pictures on it. So not really books, but like family photos and things like that. I am standing in the middle of his living room, dropping like a soccer ball on the ground. When it bounces up, I'm kicking it to him. He's catching it and tossing it back. I'm just drop kicking it to him. Suddenly, every single photo from the shelf that he was in fell off the couch or fell off the shelf onto the couch on top of him. We in the past have already discussed why he thought his house was haunted. I'm like, interesting, but I'll believe it when I see it. We realize the only photos that fell were the ones where he was in them, and they fell on top of him. The phone rang. He went to go pick it up. It said line in use. We were home alone at his place. He answered the phone, and there was static on the end of the line, and we said, let's go to Josh's house. And then we left. And that was my ghost situation.
That tops all of ours. Holy hell.
I should have known that's what Josh was going to talk about, because I don't think I've ever had an experience where I truly believed the ghosts were real. But I was going to say, while we were at school, our friend Matt would consistently tell us how he was solely convinced that his house was haunted. And Josh's story went into more detail about it.
Blake, what about you?
Yeah, there's not one at the top of my head, but one of my buddies, the one that went to Harvard, he was here recently, and he was telling me a story how recently he came across a ghost. He was sleeping at night, and he said he woke up, and there was just like a white woman that was just hovering like in his door area. And he's like, no, like I woke up, I was looking, she was just hovering right there in the door area, and I just decided to close my eyes, go back to bed. And then he said he woke up a couple hours later. He woke up, and now she was like next to the window, kind of just hovering around the window, staring at him, and woke up his girlfriend and said, hey, like, do you see that by the window? And she was like half asleep and said, what is that white thing by the window? Go get it. And he said, nope, I'm staying in bed. And so they just went to bed, didn't think anything of it. And the next day he learned that day in Boston was the Dia de los Muertos, the Day of the Dead, where, as you know, they all celebrate all that kind of stuff. And it turns out his apartment complex was built on some old rundown building that was torn down like in the 1910s or 1920s. And supposedly there were a few murders on the premise prior to that. And so my buddy Aiden, he did know that it was the Day of the Dead, the Dia de los Muertos, and that night he happened to see something in his doorway in front of the window. His girlfriend saw something, and there you go. That's what he told me.
That's pretty good too. Mine's not that good. So I actually was, where was I? I was in like a friend of mine's basement, and he had this old CB radio. Like in trucks, you can like talk and communicate, and we were like messing around with it. We're like flipping it on, like we hear static, and all of a sudden, like we hear like crinkling. We're like, oh, what is that? And so we're like on that channel. We're like, oh, he lives not close to a highway, but lives close to like a major street, so maybe it could have been trucks or whatever. And we're like, we start hearing a voice, and we're like talking. We're like, hello, and the guy starts. We hear a voice come back. It was the ghost of Ronald Reagan. And we're like talking. We're like, what is this? It was Ronald Reagan. And we're like, this is the craziest thing ever. It was unreal. And we didn't know what to do. But the guy was like, I'm Ronald Reagan. We're like, okay, whatever. And then kept talking, and was like, we asked him questions. We were Googling stuff and was like answering questions. And it turns out it was actually a stand-up comedian named Rich Little who was trying to sell shows, and he's like a impressionist comedian. So ended up being an impressionist comedian, so not an actual ghost.
Hey man, a few years back, I was in Central Park with the Channel 4 news team, and I saw the ghost of Stonewall Jackson. So
that's good.
Speaking of impressions, I got to tell you, Brady, your buddy Joey, the one he just did the other day of Colin Cowherd was unreal, about Tom Brady with his hat backwards. Oh, that one was great.
God,
dude, Joey's Colin's really good. Josh, do you care to? I saw you laughing at mine. You wanna divulge?
Hold on, let me read this real quick from Shore Round, because this is fantastic. My ghost experience. My sister and I had just finished watching the WandaVision episode where Wanda learns that Agatha is a witch. Spoilers. Short Round. We go upstairs. It's midnight. We're in separate rooms, and hear the same knock on the doors. Flip out. Then we hear someone loudly walking on our roof. My parents, who are awake, didn't hear anything.
Santa.
And it might have been.
Nailed it.
Yeah, so Brady, I was just surprised at how similar your ghost story was to a plot in a Family Guy episode.
Oh,
Where
I had
Peter
no clue.
finds a CB radio and talks to Rich Little via Ronald Reagan's voice.
I had no idea. No
All right,
clue.
guys. So we're going to move on to our pick'ems right now. But before we do, we have one final quick question to get to. This comes from Johnny Barrow. Is Nightmare Before Christmas a Halloween or Christmas movie?
I'm going to go Christmas movie. Because the Haunted Mansion at Disneyland becomes Nightmare Before Christmas themed, not at Halloween, but at Christmas.
No, it does become themed at Halloween in
What?
early September.
But it doesn't become like Nightmare Before Christmas themed. No, it does not. No way.
Bro, I was literally there with my mom last month, middle September.
brag,
and
bro.
It was already.
Sick
Yeah, you like that,
brag.
bro? Yeah, you jealous?
Okay,
Yeah,
so
no.
was it?
I was there with
Jack
your mom too,
Skellington
Blake.
themed? Was
Yep.
it Jack
All-
Skellington themed, or
They-
was it Nightmare Before Christmas themed? There's a difference.
No, there's not. They
Yes,
do
there
this.
is. If all the Christmas stuff is out, then it's Christmas. If it's not Christmas themed, it's not.
They don't
Nightmare
change
Before
it.
Christmas.
Once they make the switch for the Nightmare Before Christmas, all the stuff is the same on the ride and on the outside. It's all the same.
So there's all the snow out there right now.
They don't have snow.
They do it not Christmas time.
I've been a Disneyland pass holder for about 15 years. I think I would now maybe.
How do you
Guys,
feel
you
about
know,
the raised
Disney
prices of
for
the pass
20
holder,
years.
Blake?
The what?
How do you feel about the raised prices of the pass?
It's
Criminals.
corporate greed, those bastards. But it's fine.
Short Run brings up a great point. It's a Thanksgiving movie.
All right, guys, let's get to our
Is
pick'ems
Die
right
Hard-
now.
Hang on. Is Die Hard a Christmas movie? Yes or no?
I've still never
Absolutely.
seen Die Hard.
I've never seen either of these movies, so I can't attest.
That's all good. All right,
Josh, have
guys,
you seen Die Hard?
we have a brand new leader in the pick'ems. It's Brady, who had a great week 2 weeks ago. He's got 50. I got 49. Josh with 47. Lyle, you're still struggling there. You got 45, so you got a lot of ground to overcome, but that's okay. We have a lot of games to get to, guys. We'll try to rapid fire these bad boys because we got about 15 games to get to, so we'll try to get through this as quickly as possible. UCLA at Utah.
Man, this is a tough one. I'm going to take UCLA on the road this week because I think they're going to be fired up after last night's game. Plus, Arizona State needs a UCLA win this week, and they're back in the driver's seat for the South. So I'm going to take the Bruins on the road.
I agree. I know ASU lost to Utah, but I think that was more ASU beating themselves. I think UCLA is solid, and I think they're going to get the win.
My computer just glitched out. Can you guys hear me? Am I still here?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Josh, who'd you say? I didn't even hear your picks. You said
I said UCLA.
Lyle.
As did I.
3 for 3. UCLA.
No, that's
I'll
a
go-
protection pick.
I'll go with UCLA strictly because we need them to win, and we can't have Utah win. Louisville at NC State.
I'm taking NC State at home. Go Wolfpack. What does the wolf say? Woof. There you go.
Yeah, I've got NC State here too. They're sneaky competitive. I think this is a game they should win.
It's not this weekend. It's 2 weeks. I'm gonna go Louisville. I'll pick Louisville. I'll go outside the norm on this one.
I'm trying to overtake you, Brady, so I'm going to go with NC State. Maybe that's what gets me over the top. Fresno State at number 21, San Diego State. The battle of two teams that aren't a state, but they claim to be.
I think this is going to be a really good one. Fresno State has shown this year that they can put up some points, but they've lost a couple of games. I'm going to take San Diego State at home in Carson, I believe. Are they still playing in Carson?
They sure are.
Oh, I'm taking my Tex then.
Yeah, and I think they're still undefeated. So I think this is a game that San Diego State should win. These are two good teams, but I like San Diego State in this one.
SDSU did the Lord's work by beating U of A earlier this year.
True. I mean, to be honest, who shouldn't beat you?
A lot of people doing the Lord's work these days.
True.
Boy.
Yes, Josh. Yes. I think San Diego State gets an on-the-road, at-home win. So I'm going to go San Diego State.
I'll go Fresno State in the upset. All right, guys. Number 12, Kentucky at Mississippi State.
I think Kentucky brings in all the candy corn this week and gets a win on the road.
Candy corn, good or bad?
Fantastic.
I'm very down the middle. It's not my thing. If it's around, I'll eat it, but after 3 or 4, I'll feel like throwing up.
I think it's fine. I don't know. I think it gets a little too much hate. I like it.
I'm the same. I'm the same way.
Yeah, I've got Kentucky in this one.
Kentucky on the road. I've got Kentucky getting the win.
I'm going to ride in the power of Mike Leach because, hey, I love him. I feel like we haven't
He's
heard much from him.
anti-candy corn, though.
We haven't heard much
anti-coaches.
from him lately.
He's anti-candy corn.
All right, guys. This is Big Ten at its finest. This is unbelievable. Number 9 Iowa at Wisconsin, and guys, what is officially the lowest over/under of the season at 36.5 points. My God,
that's like 14 to 13. That's like 14 to 12. Math. Is what they might that could happen this week. I'm taking Iowa on the road. They are a slightly better Big Ten team than Wisconsin when it comes to scoring points. Overall, I think they're much better. But what points-wise, give me Scotty at home to lose.
I've got Iowa 9 because they're ranked 9, and Wisconsin 3 because they've lost 3 games, and that's also what I think the final score is going to be. So give me Iowa 9-3.
That is the best reasoning we've had for a pick'em in a very long time. Since Josh went on his worst of the worst tangents, that is the best reasoning for a pick'em.
Hey, do not sleep on the Salukis, bro.
Don't do it.
So, do you guys remember? I think it was 2 weeks ago. It was 2 weeks ago.
I remember.
The 21st night of September. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Great time.
Wisconsin versus Army. After the Wisconsin game, one of the linebackers on Wisconsin proposed to his girlfriend after the whole thing, which was really cool because that Wisconsin linebacker's brother played for Army. So the whole family was there. It was a cool thing. And we haven't talked about that since. So shout out Noah Burks, my I won't call him a teammate because I didn't play, but he went to Carmel. So go Noah Burks at Wisconsin. That being said, congratulations. You're going to lose this week. Go Iowa.
Real quick, Blake, I found out that weekend that Wisconsin and Army also played in ice hockey in Madison that weekend.
Really?
And I think I gave a shout out to one of my coworkers, Ben Westlake. He's a Wisconsin fan. So I said, I'm picking this game for Wisconsin in honor of Ben Westlake. Well, turns out, I guess he also has connections to Army, and he rooted for Army in that game. So never mind, I guess. But they did play in hockey as well.
Well, there you go.
Short round. Shout out Little Egypt, which is Southern Illinois, the Salukis.
Go Salukis.
Yes,
that's
King
right.
Tut, he's dead.
I'm going to go with Iowa in this one, but this game is going to be disgusting. I know a few weeks ago, I think it was the Iowa-Penn State game that had Lyle just ready to just unleash on the Big Ten as a whole. This one literally might send Lyle to the brink of death or something because this game is going to be disgusting. There's going to be no points. The quarterback play is going to be abysmal. Watch this game end up being like 35-31. And it ends up being a fantastic game. I'm going to go with Iowa, but hi, the children! You're coming to the back door! Coming to the back door! All right, Texas and number 16, Baylor. For as bad of a movie as Anchorman 2 is, there are so many references and like scenes to talk about, but that movie is still an abomination after what.
Yeah.
What's the name of the shark?
I don't even remember.
It's like it ends with like E. Like something
Dobie.
like Dobie, that's right. Dobie, come home. Anyway, boy.
I'm gonna take.
I love this show,
guys. I you know what? Been saying it for a long time, and I think the time has finally come that we acknowledge that these guys are back. Baylor is back. Okay, so I'm taking Baylor at home over Texas, who, by comparison, is still not back.
Yeah, I've got Baylor at home too.
Josh, I said the same thing about my Indiana Hoosiers throughout the middle of this year. And I'll
But
say the
they're
same thing
not
about
back?
Texas. Texas is back to their old ways.
Yeah.
So, for that reason, and because why, Lyle? Because why not?
Because you feel like it.
Because
No,
I
because
feel
why
like
not?
it and I can because I'm a true American. I'm going Baylor.
I love this right here. Southern Illinois smoked my Dayton Flyers. Shaking my head.
A sentence I never thought I'd see.
I'm going to go with Texas in this one. In the upset, I guess. Number 19, SMU at Houston.
Wait, but
SMU.
It's an unranked team versus a ranked team. That's an upset.
I know, but I think Texas is better than Baylor.
Recently added both of these teams to the Big 12 in my recent season of NCAA Football 14. SMU was not in my conference realignment last summer, but I needed to add one more team to make it balanced, to make divisions. And congratulations, they made the cut. So I'm taking SMU, who's currently second in the Big 12 in my new head coach season, and I'm taking them over Houston.
Yeah, I've got SMU on the road in this one. I think they'll prevail.
I said this a few years ago in an SMU game.
I knew it was coming.
SMU can say, I'm not going to say it again. I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say it.
Yeah, I'm going to go with
SMU's going to win.
I'll go with the Mustangs. Speaking of divisions, guys, do you guys hear the report a week ago that the Pac-12 was looking into getting rid of divisions and having just the two best teams make the conference championship? I'd prefer that.
I don't even care anymore what the Pac-12 wants to do. Anyway, go to the next pick.
All right, Brady will be at this game. North Carolina at number 11, Notre Dame.
Irish at home.
Yeah, I mean, like we said earlier, we think Notre Dame's a pretender on here, but North Carolina's had a pretty disappointing year, so I'm going to take Notre Dame.
I get to see my Fighting Jeffrey Saturdays play in person, and I'm pretty pumped about that. But I'm going Notre Dame at home.
Sam Howell is either going to throw for like 400 yards and 4 touchdowns, or he's just going to be non-existent. I'm going to go with that option. I think Notre Dame gets the win. Again, North Carolina, they've been one of the biggest disappointments this season. All right, guys, we got number 1 Georgia against Florida, but a caveat, Georgia's currently a 14-point favorite. So are you taking Georgia minus the 14 or Florida plus the 14?
I'm gonna take Georgia minus 14, but I think it's right around that mark.
Yeah, I'll take Florida just because I think Georgia wins, but I think Florida covers just because they can score points and it's at home. I'll take the Gators.
Well, it's for this one. It's the neutral site they play in.
Oh, it's a cocktail party. Yeah. Okay. Never mind. Scratch that. Georgia.
I got Georgia winning and covering. Obviously, they're gonna win. They're gonna cover. Yeah, winning and covering.
This Georgia team is really damn good. So anytime you can bet on them, take them. We have another one, guys. This is going to be our final one with points. Number 20, Penn State at number 8, Ohio State. The line's currently 18.5. So do you like the Nittany Lions with 18.5? I think Ohio State wins by more than that.
I think Ohio State is much better, but for the sake of argument, I'm going to take Penn State plus 18.5. I do think this one's going to be right around that mark too. I'm going to take Ohio State by 2 touchdowns, but I'll take Penn State plus 18.5.
I'll take Ohio State with the points. I'm not convinced Penn State can hang around for 60 minutes.
I'm going to go with Penn State plus 18.5. I mean, I really do think Ohio State's really good, and this deserves to be the spread, but I think Penn State covers. Close, but they cover.
I think Ohio State wins by at least 3 touchdowns. They've just been rolling. Penn State, they're not rolling. The next one, this is our, again, game. You guys can win some money if you follow us on Twitter at the HHShow_. On Friday night, we'll be tweeting out to hear your score predictions. Get it correctly. We'll get you on the show and send you some money. But this is number 10, Ole Miss, at number 18, Auburn. A battle between 2 really good quarterbacks.
Yes, I bet. My roommate asked me the other day. My roommate likes to watch Ole Miss, and he asked me the other day simply so he could hear me say it out loud. He said, "Who's the 3rd best team in the SEC?" And I thought, Georgia, Bama, Ole Miss. He was like, yes. So I'm taking the third best team in the SEC, Ole Miss, over Auburn on the road.
I agree. The quarterback play is not on a level playing field in this game. So I'm going to take Ole Miss.
You may be surprised what you will see from Bo Nix. On the eve of Halloween, he will have a Sam Darnold-like feel. He's going to be seeing ghosts. I'm going Ole Miss.
I will say, just for the sole reason this game is Jordan Hare and Bo Nix is like a significantly better quarterback at home than on the road. Don't be shocked if there's some shenanigans here where Bo Nix scrambles, runs 40 yards, then all of a sudden connects on like a 50-yard pass. Ole Miss should win, but if Bo Nix has some game for the ages, I wouldn't be shocked. All right, guys, probably
Hang on. Last thing I'm going to interject with. How is he going to do that on the same play? How is he going to have a 40-yard run and then a 50-yard pass?
Because he's going to run for an amount of 40 yards while he's scrambling. While he's running 20 yards back, 20 yards to the side, and then he'll throw it. So that's exactly how he'll do it. Number 6, Michigan, and number 8, Michigan State. A battle of two teams that likely don't deserve to be ranked in the top 8, but they are because they're undefeated. Someone's got to come out of this undefeated. And, well, that's just what the rules say. Is it going to be Michigan or Michigan State?
I think Michigan is the better team. I think my prediction about Michigan was wrong. I think my prediction about Michigan State was wrong. But this is the Big Ten we're talking about. Every time I think Michigan goes into Michigan State when both teams are relevant and gets a win, they lose. And the only reason I think that is because of the 2011 game when Michigan State wore those gold uniforms with the black pants or whatever, and they were super sick, whatever. So for whatever reason, that one game has now diluted my memory to every other time these two teams have met in East Lansing when both are relevant, when I think Michigan's going to win. So I'm going to forget about every other time they've ever played and base this pick solely off that one game. And although I think Michigan is better, I'm taking Michigan State at home. Even though I think Michigan's going to win, on the show, on the record, I'm taking Michigan State. Sorry, Jim.
Josh, I don't want to alarm you, but I'm taking Michigan.
Oh, well, looks like I'm correct.
Yeah. I don't know. This game's also going to be super low scoring, but I
think it's better than the other one.
Yeah, it'll be better than the other one, but I can't buy this Michigan State team, at least not yet. And not that I think Michigan's like an ultra powerhouse either, but I think they're a little bit better than the Spartans.
I mean, the running back play we've seen from Michigan State this year has been elite.
Unreal.
However, I think Michigan as a whole, I can't believe I'm saying this, is a well put together football team. So I'm going to go with Michigan on the road.
I don't know. I'm going to go with Michigan because I don't think these teams are that good. I think Michigan might be just slightly better. All right, guys, our worst of the worst. We got Louisiana Tech at Old Dominion.
Well, I frankly don't know very much about either team. I hopped on here for the pick'ems. I'm sorry, guys. I usually have something prepared. But here's the thing. When I think of who I want carrying something for me, do I take LaDainian Tomlinson, LT, or do I take Old Dominion truck lines? So I think it depends on what I'm shipping. But in a football sense, if I'm carrying the ball and I need somebody to carry the ball for me, I think that LT would be a lot more convincing in the run game than, loading up an Old Dominion truck and, trying to figure out the timing of when they're allowed to drive, when they're not, when they're on the clock. I don't know anything about shipping, but it sounds like I do. So I'm going to take LT. Carry that ball for me better than Old Dominion truck lines.
What if it's the other LT and it's Lawrence Taylor that actually stops an Old Dominion truck line?
Or breaks a leg too soon? I don't know.
Nope, not soon enough.
Oh, okay, good. I'm glad
we're give me Louisiana Tech. We're going with the fighting LTs today.
I'm going to go with Old Dominion because I've picked 4 road teams in a row. I'm going to go with Old Dominion.
Good pick.
Louisiana Tech is favored, so I'm going to go with them. Yeah, sorry, Brady.
4.
I was gonna say they're favored by 36. I don't think that Old Dominion pick's that good, but yeah, they're only favored by 4, so it's almost a pick 'em. All right, guys, final one of the week. We got Washington State at Arizona State, an early game. I believe this is a noon kickoff, so
Noon.
we get to watch our Sun Devils at noon. Brady gets to follow them on his phone at 2 or 3 p.m. Eastern time.
Nothing better than a blackout at noon.
Yeah. Is that what it is? Is it a blackout?
Yeah, it's a
I haven't
blackout.
seen
It's you. It's always a blackout.
They haven't released them.
I will likely be at Staples Center for this game. So
They're playing at
you
Staples
know,
Center?
yes,
I was
this
gonna
game
say,
is
man.
in Los Angeles at Staples Center.
They're
No,
doing an
I'll be
indoor
at Staples
football
Center
version.
during this game. I will be trying to watch on my phone because I have the Wi-Fi password. I think if ASU does not have a 2-touchdown lead in the first quarter, it's a disappointment. I don't care what the final score is. I mean, ASU, after a bye week, after getting embarrassed at Utah, embarrassed at BYU this year, this ASU team should be undefeated. Like they really should be. And they're not. They have 2 losses to the 2 Utah schools, so we're going to boycott that whole state at the moment. But look, I mean, Washington State's a fine team. They've got some playmakers. There is no reason why ASU should not win this game by multiple scores. And if they don't come out fired up and they're not up by 14 points in the first quarter, it'll be a disappointing start to the game. I think ASU wins, but I'm interested to see how quickly they come out.
If ASU is up, let me try and do this with a straight face. If ASU is up by 2 touchdowns in the first quarter, Washington State is going to have to, as Lil John would say, take some shots to try to get their way back into the game. And I don't think they're going to do that. So I'm going to take ASU to win this game because they're the better team.
If I know one thing about Washington State, it's that they're not taking those shots. So
that's true. They kind of shied away from that part of the game a little bit this year.
I have a quick question, Lyle. What do you think the score prediction is?
And this can be anonymous if you'd like it to be, Lyle.
Oh man. Score prediction. Well, I think. Well, so if you get a safety in football, that's 2, right? That's 2. So that would be 2. I think ASU is going to get a safety, and then they're going to score a few touchdowns. And Washington State is simply not going to come back from a deficit like that. I'm going to go ASU 42, Washington State 14.
So you think that ASU is going to play it safe to then succeed later on?
I do. I think that's the strategy you have to attack the game with.
Yeah, and then Washington State is not going to take those shots to be successful in the end.
They're going to try, but actually, I don't know if they will. So
Okay.
I'm going to say no.
Is there any reason why they won't take those shots?
I think that should remain behind closed doors. If
Okay,
we're gonna be honest.
I do think ASU comes out strong in this game. They have good defense. What we've seen this year, you could call them antibodies. Some may say. That was a reach. I know.
Not funny.
But I will say, you guys are talking about, the 2 points, but, in some cases, all it takes is one shot downfield to get a big play going. And, it all depends on, which brand of football you want to play. Sometimes you're taking 2 shots downfield. Sometimes you're only taking 1. And if you're feeling really confident, you could take 3 shots downfield if you're an older person. It's one of those things where, what's the old saying? YOLO, Rolo? I don't remember what it is. Anyways, you only live once. And, I think you should take all the shots you can get to maximize that Rolo or YOLO possibility and opportunity.
What is
that was
going
good.
on?
That was
Yeah,
better than
good.
the first one. I'll say that.
All
That was
right,
good.
material here. What, y'all coming
Nah,
with
dude,
material?
off the cuff.
Well, I'll tell you.
Speaking
there's
of off the
one-
cuff, roll up your sleeve, get a vaccine, people.
I'll tell you one thing. There's no shot that Washington State wins this game.
Oh, I get it. Blake made a vaccine joke.
I know that Halloween's on Sunday. This game's taking place on Saturday, but I know Washington State, they're not going to be wearing masks for the occasion. And I think Arizona State is going to get the Q win. I said key win.
Oh, key
Key
win.
win,
Oh,
a key
gotcha.
win.
Gotcha.
God,
Key win.
You know, I think
Q
future
win.
I think future LSU head coach Antonio Pierce could be could have himself a big game too.
Well, hopefully ASU doesn't I was gonna say shoot themselves in the foot. That doesn't make sense. I was gonna say shot in the foot. Just get the shot in your arm. All right, I think
Antonio
that's
Pierce was on that Giants team, by the way, so you could say that.
the best part about all of us making these
Oh,
jokes
got it.
is that the best part about all these jokes is that all four of us are unvaccinated.
No, no.
I'm kidding. It's just
Don't say
Lyle.
that.
Yeah, no.
It's just Lyle.
Yeah,
All
that
right,
is
well
just
that wraps up a
False.
fun edition. Yeah, Jane Meredith did not let that happen. That wraps up a fun edition, a weird edition, a wild edition of the Harris Highlight Show. Again, follow us on Twitter at the HH_show_. We're going to be giving out Brady's money this upcoming weekend if you guys correctly predict. I don't know what's going on. Correctly predict the score for the Ole Miss Auburn game? Yeah, Ole Miss Auburn game. I'm Ron Burgundy. You guys can win money for that. Make sure to leave a comment, give this video a thumbs up. And as always, slide into those DMs on Lyle's Twitter. Guys, any parting words before we head out for the week?
Yes,
Our
from
Braves.
the great book of Woody Page, which has all of his chalkboard sayings. One of you guys tell me when to stop, and I'll give you some words of wisdom.
Now.
Okay. Nope, not good ones. Tell me one more time.
Oh, God.
Now.
Okay. All right. Here you go. I am in shape. Round is a shape. Good night, ladies and gentlemen.
There we go. All right, guys.
Glad I
For
waited for that.
Josh Schaefer, Lyle Goldstein, Brady Kling, this has been Blake Harris from the Chateau in beautiful Monrovia, California. Thank you guys so much for watching and listening. As always, we'll see you guys eventually.